Welcome back to the rules of engagement. We just talked about how to play the beginning and the middle parts of a game from in a TVT bio versus mech type game from both sides. One from the bio side, one from the mech side. We're about to jump into a next section of this show, which is going to be talking about how important positional play is in TVT, and basically a couple really important things to keep in mind. Understanding the importance of different locations, inner circle. It's an important strategic concept I'll explain later, and also how you can double gains from harassment. Before we jump into this, let me just remind you guys, so rules of engagement is about strategic analysis. So you're watching this show, what you want to do is try to understand the underlying strategy concepts. You know, you shouldn't be watching this and saying, okay, he says, you know, I should make tanks, so I'm going to go make tanks, and I should make 1 tank per 2 Hellions and use that. The idea here is to understand general strategic concepts, which then you can use in your Command and Conquer game. You can use in your chess game. You can use when you go to work and you got to pitch your ad sell to your boss or something. Whatever it is, you know, strategy is a general concept you can use in a lot of aspects of life. An idea of understanding where your advantages are and where your disadvantages are, and how to analyze that and figure out how to play to your strengths is an important concept in pretty much any aspect of life, and that's what the show focuses on. So, keeping that in mind, let's jump into our segment about positioning. We're going to talk about understanding how different locations control movement, right, and how you can analyze that. So, this is something, if you've read, you know, Sun Tzu Art of War, he talks a lot about different terrains, you know, open terrains, entangling ground, temporizing ground, etc. But those terms are kind of vague, so we're not really going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is the position, like, right now, right? At this point in the game, 12 minutes in the game, Flash is coming here and push this third CC away, right? This location is very important. So what's important is to think about this. If you're from Flash's perspective, right now I'm holding this position. If I give it up, if I run my Hellions away to try to take a different place, can I easily retake this position? That's the first question. And the one answer is no. If those Hellions move, these tanks can unsiege, move up here, siege up, and then he can't retake it very easily, right? So that's one reason to stay here. But the other question is, how long can he stay here? His troops are stuck in the corner. How important is this position? Which locations on the map give the greatest amount of space, controlling the most important zones? So right here, yes, he denies third base. How long can you hold it anyway? Well, the tanks will leapfrog, push me out eventually. But what's important is that if I give it up, I can't take it back easily. So maybe I want to stall it out, force him to push as slowly as possible, right? So you can see here, Innovation is going to methodically kind of unsiege a few. He's going to re-siege because he realizes he doesn't have much of support. And the unsiege forced Flash decided to try to jump on it and catch him when he was unsieged. That turned out to be a little bit of a mistake, as it doesn't go well. He should have backed up and continued holding the high ground here, as you know, with the extra reinforcements and a tank in the back here. The Hellions don't do so well. But anyways, the important part is to think about that location here and say, okay, how easy is it to retake if I give it up, and how important is it to hold? Can I hold it, etc. That thought process should be going through your head every time you look at your own replays, right? Next question should be going through your head. Let's say you're Flash. What locations are important to hold? Well, I don't have a lot of units, so I need to hold positions close to my rally point. I need to defend my 3 bases, right? So obviously I need to control the movement ground between my natural and my third, so I can reinforce whatever base is being attacked, right? So right here, it's important to hold this location, right? That's right where his rally is. He's going to make sure he can hold this. It's important he can make sure units come out of here, so he has vision on this location. A lot of stuff like that's important. But in general terms, as the game goes on, you want to know on this map, so we'll open up the map, what type of locations are really, really important and which control the greatest movement space. So if you think about that, you want to say, okay, if I'm going across the map, what different routes are important, right? Well, the big routes, the 2 big routes crossing the map are one around this way, right? And then the other one around this way, right? So any location that can help control one of these 2 routes is very important. But there's also kind of little like backup routes, we could say, right? So routes that are kind of important, they're not the major ones, but they control some extra bases. And that would be this route right here, right? This lane here can help control, you can attack your opponent's potential 4th base up here, right? You can attack this base. You can attack the other opponent's, your own 3rd you can defend there, and of course you got the corner base as well. And the same would be over here, this little route here. So the yellow routes are of lesser importance. The red routes are of greater importance. Now, which zones control the most of those, right? Well, the two obvious ones are this zone right here, and then, of course, on the same side be this zone right here. If you can control these two zones, right, let's say you control both of those, what happens? Well, your opponent can only have, at most, they can have 3 bases here, right? They can have these spaces here. You think at those. And they can maybe try to take this one. Although, if you think about that, if they're trying to hold this base, you can easily come down and attack that. And if they have their army to defend, you can just shoot across it and attack your natural, and they have to go all the way around. And that kind of brings me to my next point. We'll have to erase some of this stuff. My next point is about a strategic concept dealing with positioning called the inner circle. Now, to get a little bit better of an example of that, we're going to go into the Starcraft game and fast forward just a little bit. What the inner circle means is the inner circle is idea that if you have a circle and there's 2 points on that circle, or if you have pretty much anything that resembles a geometric figure, the shortest path between those 2 points is going to be the one where you cross the inside of that figure. Now, to explain it in the Starcraft term, what that means, let's say Flash right here. In fact, let's actually bring up this map again. Well, let's talk about, so Flash right here, he wants to defend this point right here, his 4th, right? He's got his 4th base here to defend, and he's got to defend his 3rd base, right? So those are 2 points he wants to defend. So what's the shortest path between those 2 points? Well, we'll point it out on this example right here using the little trusty touchscreen thing. So the 2 points are this point here and this point here. What's the shortest path between those 2 points? The shortest path is just a straight line, right? Now, if you think about the different routes they have, right, those routes could form a little geometric figure. You've got a different route that would go across here, right? Or it could go in here. But all these alternate routes, the green routes, those are all the longer routes. If you imagine drawing a circle around it, that'd be the outside, going around the outside of the circle. The red line's the inside. So Flash, to defend his locations, he wants to control the inner circle. He needs to make sure he controls that route. And then, as we can see doing so, when he gets back in his game, what he can easily do is he can defend this location, right? And this army right here, even though this army is more mobile than him, Innovation's army is more mobile, all he has to do is get this defensive position. And this army right here that Innovation has, there's no way it can circle around and attack this 3rd location, or even circle around here and attack and take this location. It would have to go all the way around on that green route I drew, as opposed to Flash. He can just pop, whoop, he can just go straight down here. So even though his units are slower, right, the slower units, as long as they control the inner circle, they should be okay. It can be used defensively like Flash is using it. It can also be used offensively to help contain your opponent. And that's what Innovation is going to do here in just a second, right? So as we fast forward here, you realize this attack doesn't work. This little commando attack's pretty cool. Flash probably should have noticed that and reacted a little bit faster with these rally units. Unfortunately, he doesn't. His barracks, I think, was placed a hair too low and he missed it, which is kind of a shame because that's going to really hurt him. And that's going to allow Innovation to come back here and do more damage and continue to do these attacks. But let's actually back up just a hair here to talk about, I think there was a section here where Innovation really controlled a good, oh yeah, because here we are. Or rewind it just a little bit further back. Not quite going where I wanted to do. So right here, Innovation, you can see, has an army here controlling this air location here. And has an army controlling this location, right? And so what's important here is to think about the large scale of the map, right? In fact, we're actually just going to jump back in that map, just to show some important things. So if Innovation has, he's got a force here, right? And he's got a force here. So he controls this short path through the middle. And what that means is offensively, right? Flash has a really hard time pushing out from his little short, he has a hard time pushing out from, let me move it over here. He has a hard time pushing out from this line. And the reason why is because as soon as he pushes out, right? Now all of a sudden, he's at a point, if we draw a circle here, right? He's at a point where this is the circle that Innovation has the inside of, right? The entire inside of that circle, Innovation controls. So if Flash ever moves to a point on the outside of this circle and needs to move to a point that's on another side across the circle, and he can't go through this zone because Innovation has control of it, he's in trouble, right? So if he moves his army out here and all of a sudden Innovation pushes in here, right? Oops, that's the wrong color. All of a sudden Innovation pushes in basically like through here. Well, wrong color, but it's okay. Then all of a sudden Flash has to go all the way back around, right? Whereas Innovation, he can just move an army. If he wants to attack this location, he can move it through the middle, and it gets to be much faster. So lines are kind of confusing. The idea is inner circle is always the shortest route between 2 points. If you control those shortest routes, you can get to different locations much faster, control the map, beat your opponent to the base. So if your opponent has multiple bases, and you control the shortest route between them, you can easily go to attack one base. When they run to defend it, go attack the other base, and there's no way they can get back to defend that second base because you control the shortest route between the 2 bases. So very, very important strategic concept. And that concept is why during this game we can notice as the game progresses, Flash has to take this base. He cannot take this bottom right base. The corner bases on this map, you can't try to control them unless you also have some semblance of control over the middle of the map. If you don't have control of the middle map and you try to take the corner bases, you can still do it. You just have to hope your opponent A, doesn't scout them, or B, doesn't understand classic strategy and know that, okay, if he takes, or actually I'll show you an example of exactly what I mean by what they could do, right? So let's say you're Flash, you take this bottom right base. Boom. Now your Innovation saying, okay, he took that base, right? All you have to do, because I control the middle, because I have the more mobile bio army, and he can't cover the middle and the bottom right and the left side. All I have to do, I move my army down here, right? Now, what does Flash have to do to defend that, right? Well, let's say Flash is hanging out to try to defend all his bases. His army's probably somewhere in this middle zone right here, right? He's either going to come this way, or he's going to come this way. Either way, whichever one he goes, you just jump back over here, right here, and you can knock out this 4th base, right? And if Flash is in this middle zone, you want to force him to go in the bottom by attacking the bottom first. But if he gets stuck in the bottom zone here, then all of a sudden he has to go all the way back and he's in trouble, right? He can't control this left base as well as this base because you have a path this path here is just as fast as that path. They're both equally long, so as long as you're more mobile, you can beat him to it. And he can totally forget about doing anything on top left. That base is yours. It's locked in. There's nothing he can do. So very hard to control these corner bases with a less mobile army unless you can restrict their movement through the center. And that's kind of a whole... That's another little... There's a lot of different positions on almost any StarCraft map or even in any geographical location that have a shorter path and longer path. So always trying to control that shorter path is very, very important. So now let's talk about another positional play, right, which is very important, which is using harassment not just to do damage, right? So when you look at this from what Innovation does here, using harassment attacks not just to say, okay, I'm going to kill my opponent with harassment, right, but to actually try to get double the gains from it. So not only, I mean, there's engagement here, right? And what he's doing, this is he tried to do a push. His push didn't work. You can see Flash is up slightly ahead in food. But now what does he does? He does some harassment over here, right? And this does 2 things. One, it's great. He's going to kill some SCVs, force a lift, do mine damage. That's an amazing benefit of harassment, right? And how many players would sit here and be like, yes, I've won. I've killed 6 SCVs in a refinery. I've probably heard him 200 minerals in mining time. That should be a win. I'm happy. Well, this point in the game, yeah, all that adds up to, let's say you dealt 800 minerals of damage. 800 minerals is like 8 Hellions. Like, Flash produces 8 Hellions every 3 seconds. This guy's a macro god, right? So, yeah, you can be happy about this. Yes, it's a small victory, but what you really want to do, what separates the great players, the innovations from the rest, is that they don't just harass just to do some damage. They harass with part of a coherent plan, basically to gain position, right? So often when you do these harassments, what's important to keep in mind, every time you do a harassment, keep your eye on key locations. Remember earlier, talking about key location was this zone right here. This zone right here controls this left base, right? If you control this zone, if you have C-Chanks in this zone, you control the movement here, which controls this left base. You lock off the top left. You lock off access to the middle via this route. So this zone is very important. This is a key location. So as innovation, you keep your eye on a key location while you're doing harass. because when you do harass, your opponent's distracted. When you're distracted, even a great player like Flash might make the mistake and leave this slightly under-defended. Then you can jump on it and get some extra gains. So one, not only did you get some damage done here, and it's some nice damage, right? But two, now all of a sudden he has this location. Of course, he can't break the planetary right yet, but he can siege here. And now what happens? He controls this space. Flash can't move ground units here. This means a couple things. One, he could just run like 2 Marines behind a worker line, and Flash can't get units in there to stop it. Or 2, he could slowly siege the PF. Basically, Flash has to push him off of this spot. And as soon as he tries to push him off this spot, of course, it means he has to engage unfavorably. He had to do a late siege because he had to push up and engage the pre-siege tanks. And all of a sudden, Innovation trades beautifully here. I mean, yes, Flash pushes it back, but Flash has 1 tank left, right? Innovation still has a decent army. So, and of course, he got a little more done in the main with that drop too. But the main point there was he got an extremely favorable engagement because he took this great position, and it's not even over yet, right? He still has this position. Of course, it's weak enough now. Flash can probably bully this over with some Hellions as soon as he decides to. But the idea is that harassment not only got damage done here, but it provided the opportunity for an amazing trade here because Innovation kept his eye knowing this was a very key spot, and he was able to get a very, very, very cost-efficient trade and keep Flash's army size down. As he go forward again, right? More of the same is going to be used by Innovation here, right? Flash tries to do a push here. Realizes it's not going to happen. Innovation is doing some harassment over on this side, right? So he's going to harass over here at the bottom, right? And as he's harassing at the bottom, and now in the main, he says, okay, Flash is distracted. I can go attack over here. So the harassment, this one didn't trade too well. But you always try to double down if they're distracted. Pick off the gas. It means he can't build more siege tanks. Pick off some more SCVs, be annoying. And now again, you're distracting him on the left side. What's another key position? If you can siege your tanks up right here, Innovation. If you can siege his tanks up in this zone, so he can control the movement along this line right here. If Flash can't move down to his third base, this third base is dead. So if Innovation can siege up in this line right here, right? We'll actually just bring this up. If he can siege up right here, anywhere in this zone means he pretty much wins. Like, if he can get a siege, I mean, he doesn't actually automatically win, but Flash has to break those siege tanks. It'll be another great trade for Innovation. So he wants to siege up in that line right there. As he's going forward, we can see here what's going to happen. He's going to try to get in there, and Flash beats him to it, right? Flash's tank's here. He can't get to this line. It's a siege up about 3 to 4 squares back too far. It's still not a bad trade, and it almost worked. And if he could have gotten up closer, it would have been almost a checkmate position. As it is, it's still great. He's killing a lot of Hellions because he's forcing the Hellions to fight without the siege tank support, because the siege tanks have to stay back here to keep his tanks from pushing in. And again, of course, attacking on the left side while he's distracting on the right. He's going to back up and then again do the same thing, right? Flash will be distracted on this left side. He says, okay. That last time you can see Flash knows how dangerous this line is, so he scans here. Unfortunately for him, we'll look through his viewpoint. Unfortunately for him, as soon as it goes dark, what happened? Innovation jumped right in there. Very unfortunate timing for Flash, and this time he's able to run in here and get siege tank right in this line. And now that he's in this line, Flash can't just be happy with skirting the edge to defend a third base. He has to break this tank line, and that's a very expensive task that he just can't do. He doesn't have the Hellion count. He tries to break it, not quite enough, losing almost all his tanks, and then, of course, the coup de grace with the Marauder drop on top of the last couple tanks. Once that dies, it's over. Flash has no units left. He's down, 120 food to 173. And the game is Innovations from there on out. So the idea here is that every time, it's very important when you approach a game of StarCraft, understand key locations on the map. You want to say, okay, what are locations I need to defend to control different routes? What are the most important routes across the map? And then, in the mid-game, there's one way to control to send your whole army there and just plop it there and say, yeah, I've won. But against a good opponent, they'll either play in a manner that location gains less importance, or, of course, they're just not going to let you do that. So you keep your eye on it. Say, you know what, I can't take that right now. Right, he's got his tanks here. But I'll keep my eye on it. I'll do some harass, and the instant he leaves that slightly under-defended, I'll jump and overwhelm it immediately, right? And that's the whole idea of Innovations TVT. That's why he won this game 2 against Flash, utilizing those key locations and that harassment to open those up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this segment of Rules of Engagement. Take a short break and be right back with the Q&A section.